The two Jills, a psychologist and psychic intuitive, reveal mind-blowing insights that turn psychology, self-help, and conscious teachings on their heads. Why? Because they work. Real help, sincere growth is here. Welcome to Psyched.
All right. So how are you doing?
I'm good.
Good.
I'm good.
All right. So today I want to introduce the topic that is, I think people won't realize how near and dear it is to their hearts. Today we're going to talk about martyrs, masochists, and people pleasers. And the reason why this is so important is because there are a lot of good people out there with really good intentions that end up feeling they need to either do more for other people or put other people before themselves, that find or have been taught that there's real virtue in that. And sometimes they sacrifice themselves in the process. And that's where the no good deed goes unpunished feeling kind of can come from. So I think that this will probably strike a chord with a lot of people, though they wouldn't put themselves in this category. So it's a sleeper. I think it's a sleeper.
That's good. I like that because the way you said that, it's almost like we're encouraging people to really be very open to perhaps insights into themselves as we're having this conversation, to assist them in having better self-awareness. Like we've been talking about throughout the podcast and all the episodes, the brain can trick us. And there can be a lot of self-deception that is not, it's just a way that we've designed ourselves and we don't realize that, oh, wow, I consume and create a lot of energy, like trying to make other people happy or saying I'm sorry when there's really nothing to apologize for. And just really kind of being careful around certain people or in certain situations. And there's probably a lot of intelligent, wise reasons why those patterns have been created. And as whole and complete adults that are growing into hopefully more and more wholeness, we can possibly look at our own behaviors in a new way and experiment with different responses and make different choices that may give you more of your energy back and help you be more authentic with yourself and what you deserve, and be more real about what other people may consciously or subconsciously be asking from you that you may not be as interested in agreeing to.
Yeah, I like that. You use the word deserve, and that is one of those words that I feel like is it's a little bit of a hot button for me, because deserving means like we have to almost earn something. And I feel like that's not, and I don't even think that you meant it that way, but it's just something for people.
But it's good. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
To kind of become aware of, because it goes to the worth issue, right? And this is not about worth. Your worth is not in question, has never been in question, will never be in question. Your worth is infinite, paramount, unchangeable, God-given. You're here. You're worthy, right? Like that just doesn't factor into anything that I do.
That's
but
great.
I think that there is this idea that through these martyr, masochistic, people-pleasing efforts and the sort of concurrent inability to say no, that somehow our worth gets heightened.
Yep, I agree.
And that's not the case. It's not the case. In fact, in our own eyes, it diminishes. And maybe in the eyes of others as well.
Let me offer this, Jill, and I do want to make sure that you agree with us once I say it, but just as kind of a baseline value system, what I think we both operate within is that everyone deserves to be treated with kindness, respect, decency, and not overpowering another individual and not trying to manipulate another person. I probably could have said that better, but is that a fair baseline for you as well?
Yes.
You don't need to earn it. You don't need to prove yourself to be treated decently. One metric I like to kind of test with some individuals that are, or they seem to be demonstrating that they're in a martyr type of role is, would you treat you the way that that person treats you? Mm-hmm. And regularly there's this, oh no, I would never. And I'm like, that says something, doesn't it? Right? Now, it sometimes feels hard when you are somebody that, if you are somebody that tends to go above and beyond for other people, it may feel like that's impossible to find somebody that will treat you the way that you treat them. But I would offer that it's worth coming as close as possible, because some people will just they'll take and take and take and take and take. And they'll really play mind games with individuals that are willing to keep going above and beyond to try to make another person happy. So I don't know how much we want to get into how people get this way, but I guess I would refer people, instead of going into that, because there's so many, histories that can lead to martyrdom and narcissism and things like that. So rather than go into that here, I would just refer people to the episode on let go of the past. I can't remember what we called it, Jill, but it was like the past is in the past. Like the past doesn't matter. Yeah, the past doesn't matter, I think is what we called it. But go to that episode because that's intending to give you a fresh start, no matter what your past patterns and experiences and brainwashing may have been.
Yeah. It's the programming, right? So I think that's something that you and I both offer to people that we work with, is that we're going to unhinge you from the past for the purpose of, making this sort of the beginning point. And then I'll say, healing from that space. Right. Yeah. Going back is not required. And in fact, it could enhance some of these stories that keep these martyr-like, people pleasing behaviors in place. Right. So for me, the concept that really blew me wide open was this idea that sacrifice is not required. I will say it often, and I hope people hear me. I remember I was with what was he? He was like he wasn't Mormon. He might have been a Jehovah's Witness. I can't really remember, but there was this wonderful kid who shows up at a food pantry that I was working with. It was him and a friend of his that were going by the grace of God. They really had no money. They were on a mission. So maybe it was Mormon. I don't know. But they were on their mission. And they were sent to New York, and they were just going to find their way, by the grace of God and good people and what have you. And I noticed them immediately in this food pantry because they were very, very out of place. I recognized them. And so I was like, what are you guys doing here? How did you get here? I think they were from Tennessee or something. And I'm like, where are you guys sleeping tonight? And they're like, well, we were going to sleep on the couch in the food pantry. I'm like, okay, you'll come and you'll stay with me. And, I bring these two big guys home. I mean, my son was like, what are you doing? But I remember talking to one of the kids, and his thing, even about the mission, was about sacrifice. The whole thing about how they're sacrificing to be better people so that they have more prestige and, God looks at them more favorably. And I honestly think I met this kid because I was like, if God is your father, as they're taught,
in his language. Mm-hmm.
In his language, if God is your father, I'm telling you right now, I'm a parent. And the last thing I want is my kids to suffer and sacrifice at all. Like that would break my heart to know that I just wouldn't ask it of them. I wouldn't want it. And as we were talking, I think it started dawning on him, like, why is this virtuous? Why is I'm a child of God, someone else is a child of God. Why is me lowering myself or harming myself in some way or going against my grain to do something for another? I'm harming one of God's children, right? That God isn't looking for one child to sacrifice for another child. I think that's what I was saying. God doesn't want one kid to sacrifice for the other kid. And,
right.
It was just conversations like that, that this does not sit well with me, the whole sacrifice model.
To me, the other sort of logical extrapolation that I got to that didn't make sense to me was, well, if God, as we're using that term, I'm comfortable with that term, but whoever thinks of a higher being or higher self or some supreme being that's not you, right? Mm-hmm. Anything outside yourself that's more wise, more loving, more it than you are, more creator. An energy like that would impose suffering, consequences, strife, hardship for the benefit of that individual, you would expect that it would lead somewhere, right? But the individuals that I kept coming across now in over 10 years of observational research, they're not getting stronger. They just keep suffering. So there are humans, and I know some very high achieving humans that really appreciate how they push themselves and the sacrifices that they'd have to make, and whether it's physical fitness or something else. Like it really served me well, Jill, to punish myself that hard. That's great because you had a positive outcome from it. That isn't what's happening for a lot of people. They just keep in the suffering state. They don't get to the reward phase. Because if they're in an abusive situation, especially of any spectrum, they never get to the part where, okay, now I deserve the healthy relationship.
Exactly, because suffering begets suffering. And I think you make a good point. So are there things that we can put the screws to ourselves and say, can I do this? And sort of, engage in a challenge? 100%. I think the sacrifice and the martyrdom that we're talking about it has become habitual, but it starts out really with this idea that they don't have a choice. That whatever their ideology is, the compulsion, the belief system is, you have to do this, right? So you can't say no, even though you want to say no. And you know that it's going to set you back, but you're like, I don't have a choice. I have to do it, right? So there's a difference between saying, you know what, this causes suffering, but I'm going to do it. And then you can feel okay because you've actually chosen it. But most of this that I'm talking about, that's, for me, that's really undermining to our honoring ourself is the kind of stuff where I can't say no.
No. Yeah. And this goes into the theme that we have throughout the Psych podcast is I'm always looking for the personal authority. And I think you've used the great word sovereignty, and that works too. I love that you just used the word choice. For so many individuals that I come across that are in these very martyr, somewhat victimized state, there's a sense of exactly like you said, I don't have a choice. This came, something just happened on my path. Everything happens for a reason, Jill. They're trying to tell me like, no, I'm here for a reason. God sent this to me. Or someone told me that this is my twin flame or soulmate. So they're supposed to kind of put me through hell so that I can evolve and ascend and become a better person and all those things. And I'm just like, oh my God, the entire belief system to me is so distorted and so demented. And again, I might be okay with it if I was like, yes, that will lead to some sort of a healthy relationship at the end, but it doesn't. It doesn't. No, like you said, suffering begets suffering. That's a perfect term for this. So
and I think the reason it doesn't, I think the reason it doesn't, just to go on what you were saying, is that because the brain says if you're not getting anywhere, you haven't suffered enough. So that's the hook. that keeps us going back for more, and we take the bait every time.
Yeah.
That's the
And
issue.
there's so many aspects of those looped programs within that belief system that you just mentioned that continuously reinforce from the brain level, yeah, you don't deserve to be treated well yet. You don't deserve to get a healthy relationship. You haven't earned yet what that person has, that healthy relationship, or that loving form of love that doesn't hurt, right? That love that doesn't hurt. You don't get that yet. You're not there yet. And the brain, if it's in that belief system, this is a very problematic belief system. The brain will never say, okay, now you're good. It can't in that belief system because it's looking for an idealized state, right? And what drives me, there is a layer of me that gets annoyed by it. The bigger layers of me are really compassionate about it, is the individual that says, well, I must still need this in my life, the suffering, because it still bothers me. Like, oh my God, look at what you're saying. There's a part of you that's saying that you are trying to evolve into a version of human that the person that you give the most vulnerability to, that when they mistreat you, you're not bothered by it. You don't care. All you do is love them. Nothing in you hurts. And I'm like, look at what you're saying. Right. And again, if you bring them to another state of awareness by how would you feel if your friend came to you, telling you what you're experiencing every day? Would you want this for your best friend? Would you treat someone this way? How is this okay? Why are you okay? Right? Is it really okay that somebody is consciously or unconsciously, subconsciously or overtly choosing to treat you this way? Is it really okay?
100%. And so I think what ends up happening is we take our strength, right? Because there's an incredible strength that's there to be able to tolerate some of the shit that we tolerate. Okay. That is a huge strength. I am going to say that, but you're not deriving strength from it because you're never really saying in a way, I survived that and I see that I'm strong. And so I don't have to do that again. Right. That's what you're saying. The brain doesn't have that opt out of suffering mode, right? It's martyr mode and you stay in the martyr mode. So I think, for a lot of people, it's sort of like take how strong you are and recognize how strong you are and use that strength to stop that program, not to endure that program.
Yeah.
Right? So there's a right idea there.
Mm-hmm.
The strength is real and it is your God-given strength and all of that is amazing. But it's being used in this case against you to enhance and increase and, the suffering rather than to give you the strength of, you know what, I'm done with that.
Yeah. I'm realizing there's also a corollary here with the episode we did on shitty relationships. So I'd also reference that for some individuals. But Jill, I have a question for you. Do you feel like it's possible, and I know your answer, I'm teeing up the ball for you, sister.
Okay, let's tee it up.
Do you feel like it's possible for somebody that has been in any form of martyr kind of, mode to get out of it?
I definitely think people can get out of martyr mode. I question sometimes if they want to. And if you're not changing the story, and this could be a religious story, this could be a story within your family that you're the one that has to suck it up all the time when something, explodes with a parent or, even with a spouse who's working, if it's, you both work, but you're the one who has to call in sick when something happens, right? Like it's just this, badge of honor that it's become. In psychology, we call that a secondary gain. And And so even that gain, even though it oddly depletes you, the brain gets an adrenaline from it. Right? And so there is a better way to get that adrenaline. And it's not by backing into it, through the secondary gain, but go for the primary gain of honoring yourself and making your choices and staying out of guilt-induced behavior and, staying out of, in a lot of ways, the guilt-induced behavior that has you taking on things that are not good for you. They may not be good for your job. They may not be good for your family. They may not be good for your relationships. And yet we keep doing them. So I think that there's a real, you have to know what you're getting out of this martyr relationship. You have to know how it's serving you in order to say, you know what, that's small potatoes compared to how I can actually serve myself and stay out of that martyr relationship. It doesn't mean you're selfish, which is another guilty self-fulfilling narrative that you get, right?
I definitely want to talk about that part. Yeah. The martyr, there is definitely a pattern there of the people pleaser, right? And sadly, they often, the martyr, the definition of it in my mind is a people pleaser that has gotten themselves into a relationship, or they were born into a relationship with someone who is unpleasable. That to me is the most just sad, right, situation. And that's a big one that I've caught myself in, because I do have that people pleaser side to me, is that recognition of, oh wait, is that person even, do they know how to be happy? Because if I'm trying to make it my job to make them happy, and they're, for whatever reason, it's almost like they refuse to be happy no matter what, then I'll logically go, oh yeah, never mind. I'll wish them well, but I'll take my name, my sticker off of the job of making them happy, because I'm doing everything I can and bending over backwards and realizing, oh, this isn't going anywhere. Yeah, that doesn't make sense. I would rather spend my energy and make energy for choosing to make people happy as an act of love, right? And just friendship and being a great mother and being a great wife, etc. With people that are capable of being happy, right? And limit.
Well, let me ask you a question on this, because I think in the communities that you and I travel in a lot, there's this sense of failure, right? So what do you do with the people who are saying, yeah, but I should be able to break through, right? These are the consummate helpers and healers who, what do you do with those people?
Yeah.
Because it's,
What I try to help them see, again, using logic, because all of us have that logical, any healthy person, right? We're not talking about the corner cases here, has an ability for logic and reason, but do you want their well-being more than they do? Which is often the case with a healer or a martyr, is they tend to pick really tough cases, right? So once you give that as kind of a metric of, how about you be willing to work with or willing to support, even on a friend level, someone who wants their well-being at least as much as you do, if not more, ideally, right? And that's pretty easily determinable with any amount of time. It's like, oh yeah, I think I want their well-being more than they do, because they just self-sabotaged again, right? So there are individuals that are beyond our reach, right? And that doesn't mean they're beyond anyone's reach, but until they're ready to take their well-being more seriously, I don't think there's really any amount of major success or wins that anyone can have. That's humbling, right? To a healer and to a people pleaser, that's a very wonderful exercise in softening and humility of, oh, okay, I guess this isn't all about me. This isn't just based on what I can do and what I can offer. This is also about the other person, what they're willing to receive, what they're willing to take responsibility for, right? In their own actions, etc. I refuse, literally. I have a hard line boundary with people that can never say they're sorry for anything, right? When they've clearly messed up or bad behavior, they missed something, and they cannot say they're sorry for it. Those are not my people. That's a no for me, right?
Yeah, but so are the people who say sorry for everything when they didn't do it.
Yes, and it's for me. That's not a hard pass. But I'm also there. I was kind of like, oh, it's just cringy. And I have this weird example of this. We had a super sweet neighbor, and she did happen to be very devoted to a faith, and I would say, because we would have play dates, or our kids would have play dates together, I would ask her, like via text or phone message, hey, or do those two kids want to come with my two kids and go to the park today? And then she'd say, are you sure? Is that okay? And I'm like, yeah. I don't understand this question. I'm inviting your kids to the park with my kids because it's okay. So this whole like, are you sure? Is it okay? There is a version of my Jill that gets really annoyed by it. I'm like, girl.
It's funny. I yelled at my sister the other day for that because I think her husband has to come in and borrow a car.
Okay.
And she's like, oh, we don't want to put you out. I'm like, look, I said, I'm a logistics person. I will handle the car. I'll figure it out. I don't have it in my mind right now, but I'll make sure there's a car there for him. And she's like, we don't want to put you out. And I was like, I get annoyed when you don't ask. Okay. And I like doing this stuff and I don't consider it, but I think a lot of times if people are, and this isn't specific to my sister, but if people are feeling this sense of overwhelm, then they project that onto other people, right? So it is coming from a place of, I know that would be putting me out, so I don't want to put you out, right? But it is coming from it's a projection and it's coming from their own sense of overwhelm. And truthfully, everybody's coming from their own vantage point of how something would hit someone else. You only have your vantage point, right? And that's where it happens. But I think
the wider version of you has more than your 5 human senses vantage point. I'll just offer that little tip.
That is yes. But in things like this, we kind of get stuck on a lot of times. The same martyr is not going to ask for help. Right? So it's this weird, isolating place. And I will tell you, I don't care how pious you are, it builds resentment. It can't not build resentment for you to put yourself out there, go the extra mile for everybody, and then either have people not notice it or the next day is a new day. It's completely forgotten. You're not getting any traction or any brownie points moving forward. You're starting from scratch every day. Like, I'm sorry, but your resentment may be so cloaked that you don't get it or not privy to it. But that's the byproduct of doing something you don't want to do for someone who could appreciate it maybe for 5 minutes and then it's out of their mind. So look for that, when you're doing things. Look for that resentment.
I think the other tip I'd like to offer people is that we teach people how to treat us, either overtly or by what we put up with, right? And that line, I think, changes for all of us based on just kind of what's going on in our life, right? There are some days when the fuse is short and you just like, I can't, I need you in your best behavior for me to be okay, whatever. But some people may be confused by why I even brought up this idea that I have a hard no with somebody that can't apologize. And it's because I enjoy doing things for people. And with people, I have found, and it might be overly harsh, I don't know, but I found with individuals that can't say they're sorry when they do mess up, that those are people that are not going to be appreciative enough for me to feel okay, that the relationship is healthy and balanced and that it's a win-win kind of mutually beneficial situation. It's a lack of respect and a sign of lack of awareness and honesty on their part that I have had not good luck with in the past. So for me, it's it's maybe a small little indicator, but I have a sibling that is probably diagnosable as bipolar and a lot of other things, maybe multiple personality. Anyway, there's a lot of new terms for it that that I don't know. And the amount of energy that I've given this beautiful being who is really, she's got a lot of problems. I know what that black hole of need looks like, and I will lose myself in it and not have any energy for any of the other healthy relationships I have in my life, and me and being able to enjoy my life. But the hard part about that is that, because I've basically been vulnerable there and admitted that I have a martyr, overly capable people pleaser side of me, is that it feels mean. So to any of us that are people pleasers, there's probably another dynamic of we want to be seen as nice and feel nice. We want to be seen as likable and feel likable, a person that does nice things for people. And there are people that can reciprocate and say thank you, and oh my gosh, that's so great, and reciprocate right back to you. And then there are other people that don't even realize the lengths you've gone to, won't say thank you, and will just keep and begin to take advantage. So the part of me that knows that, God, if it's all on paper, just one instance with maybe a sibling, it would be like, God, Jill, you are a bitch. I can see where it would look that way, but I'm also protecting me and my family from somebody that is just dangerous emotionally.
Yeah. And look, there are takers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there are givers. And when that's not a balanced relationship, both sides suffer. And interestingly, the person that has to change that relationship is the giver. The taker has no motivation to change the nature of that relationship. And because we want to be seen as a good person, I no longer believe, I will say, this was a serious detoxing for me. But I no longer believe that there's anything wrong with saying no. And it is because I have taken for myself a hard line on sacrifice. And I want to give a little delineation there, because for me, it's not objectively, is this a sacrifice? It's subjective. If it feels in the moment like a sacrifice to you, it is. So work with that. Do not say, well, they only asked me for $1 on top of the $100,000 I've given them. It's, but it just feels at a certain point like it feels like a sacrifice. So don't go objective on this. Don't go about objective behaviors. Really check in with yourself and feel how it feels and just honor that. And that's what started allowing me to reform. Because on the face of a lot of these things, it's no big deal. Right? But the way it feels to me felt like a big deal. And I own that. And I'm going to honor myself. And that was the way out. That was how I got out.
So Jill, I think I'm interpreting what you're saying, but I want to make sure it's clear to everybody. So I think what you're talking about here, that somebody's a taker, let's say, a taker's individual request may not seem like much. And on paper, it's like, it's so simple. Why don't I just say yes? But it's in the context of them being so consistent in their taking and never reciprocating, where the relationship is really off balance, that you're taking, even though it's isolated and it would be easy for you to do, you're like, I'm going to pass this time, but I wish you well.
It's the way it feels. Yes. Mm-hmm. And honestly, it's not even the same person.
Mm-hmm.
It could just be your cup runneth over.
Yeah.
You could have helped your kids in the morning, like, oh my God, whatever, obviously. And that was the end of what you could do that day. Right. And then somebody comes after you and you're so depleted that for you to actually rally to do whatever that person's asking, it's more than you could bear. but it's so small and simple that you almost like can't say no because it's almost embarrassing. Mm-hmm. So you have to honor your limits. And so whether it's cumulative with one person or cumulative throughout your day, you really have to honor where you are and not be so quick to be in the judgment seat of, and even if that person says it's really not a big deal, you know, I just thought you could water my plants while I was away. I'm like, yeah, you and 50,000 other people who want me to do the littlest things for them. Like, I don't have the bandwidth right now.
That's
and
right.
It just feels like more than I can do. And so that's how you know, it's like a drip of a faucet, but eventually it's just like, it's the drip that broke the camel's back. You know, it's like I'm mixing a few analogies there, but that is, if it feels like a sacrifice, even if you have the means to do it, the time to do it, the whatever to do it, if it feels like a sacrifice, stop.
Yep.
It's not required.
So I heard you say earlier, and I really want to emphasize this, that for anyone that has found themselves in a martyr type role, practice saying no to big and small things so that you can create that version of yourself that has more personal authority. Because if you don't create that version of you that is capable of saying no to anything, right, then you are at the mercy of everyone who asks you a favor.
Yes. And the saying no has to be, that's the overt action. It has to be married with what you say to yourself while you're saying no, right? So you can't say no and continue to hold your belief that I should have done it, but I'm practicing saying no. That's not creating a fundamental change anywhere, right? That's just saying no. So what you're saying is so important. And for some, it may be chicken egg, but that no has to be coupled with a lot of honoring the self, you know, figuring out where you are. And the thing that also helped me out of this, I will say, is not everything is my miracle. I believe that when we step down, the whole world doesn't fall apart. Somebody else takes up that space, right? So it's not me, it's going to be someone else. And the brain has the complete opposite thing. It says, if it's not you, everybody's going to hell in a handbucket. You're the only one. That's where the arrogance comes from, right? The hubris comes from that. And really, everybody gets a chance to help out this individual, not just you, right? So that was true of your sister. It's true of, you know, people. God just doesn't leave people on the curb because you say no. You are not the last stand before Armageddon.
That's right. The other thing I want to add to that is that when you say no, when you begin to say no, and going forward, when it's easier to say no, I look at it as you've created a version of you that's capable of saying no, you don't need to explain why.
Right.
You don't have to defend your reason for saying no. You don't need any reason at all. So I do find that the individuals that, like you said, that was a great example of, it's just plants. It's just 2 days. You know what I mean?
Right.
Those are people that you want to watch out for, right? Because they're disrespecting you're not wanting to help them out. You don't have to be the one who helps them out. And to those of us that are people pleasers, or we get in really unhealthy relationships again and again and again, there's probably a layer of that person saying, well, oh my God, she may not invite me to her parties anymore. She may not call me. She may not be my friend anymore, right? If your friendship is based on you doing these favors for her and saying yes to him or her, then I would say that's a relationship that is good riddance. Now, if all of your relationships are in that unhealthy balance, then you may feel very lonely for a while. I respect that you may not want to do this with everybody all at once, just to have somebody around. But over time, those relationships can be replaced with other individuals that are probably more like you, right? Where when you ask somebody to water your plants, well, number one, there's those globe things. I don't have one in one of my plants, but You don't need to water plant. There's these beautiful glass ball things that can water the plants for you for normally up to a week. Anyway, it's not a big deal for you to take care of it yourself, but you probably go above and beyond of, oh my God, who am I going to ask? You probably take a lot of care before you ask anybody to do anything for you, right? That's the difference, is that you think they're probably like you. This is so good, Jill. I mean, I'm not trying to brag.
I actually don't ask a lot of people.
This is huge. So that's what I'm saying. This is why it's so big for those of us that are major doers, that we respond to takers, right? Is that we probably are not projecting literally in this way, but we think, oh, they must be like me and rarely ask for something unless they really need it. So we take very seriously somebody else's request or ask, right? Versus a lot of these, perpetual takers, they're just take. They don't even think about it. They're not.
Actually, we should look at your relationships, because this is how you know if you're a martyr or not. If you're the one who's always inviting that person and they never invite you, and if you're the one who's always, doing things for other people, or, bringing them a Danish and they never bring you a Danish, like, red flagger.
Yeah. If your relationship is based on you giving and giving and giving and giving, that's a relationship you may not even want. That relationship may be giving way more, taking way more of you than you've ever been consciously willing to offer.
But that's when you want to start looking at your motivation.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And why are you trying to ingratiate yourself, or people please, or be noticed, or take on more than you can chew? Like that's where the work is done. And so the truth is, when you start doing the work of, why am I doing the people pleasing? Why am I doing the martyring? Like, what hole am I filling in myself? You can start to back off of all that. Then you're not overwhelmed by these requests, right? So I find that I can do a lot more. I used to live in the land of overwhelm. I was so, when you talk about being like a mean person, I felt like I was mean and irritable and ornery, because I felt like everybody around me was just sucking the life out of me. And it was characteristic of my earlier relationships before I met my husband, and just a lot of, and that's actually a really good, story. I was with guys who were projects, right? And I'm like, I can turn them into something I could deal with, right? But they were projects. And I was pretty vital, vibrant, whatever. But by the end, man, they just sucked the life out of me and then like kicked me to the curb. It was brutal. So when I finished that, getting over whatever, my last breakup, I remember saying to myself, clearly I don't know what's good for me. Clearly I don't know how to pick people. Clearly I don't know how I went from being so strong and vital to so strung out. So I'm just going to not go with anything I think makes sense or logic. Right? And so my husband was friends with my sister. It was just one of these, like, no thought involved. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Right? It was one of these, does he fit? It wasn't, does he fit my criteria? What's my checklist? Like, we're not going to click because of X, Y, and Z. There was none of that. I threw all of that out the window. And it turns out the reason why I noticed him was because, to me, he was whole. He didn't need anything from me. And that was like, I want to be with him. All those other guys needed so much, and it was endless. So once I realized this person needs nothing from me, which is not typically the way we enter in relationships. Mm-hmm. We typically are like, what can I do for you? How can I be for you? What do you need?
That's right.
That's a weird thing, but we do it.
Not so everybody, but yes.
I'm whole. Let's get together. And so I met him. He's whole. He needs nothing from me. We're married 27 years or something.
Yeah. You and I have some
But it was that quick. It was that realization. Instead of trying to contort ourselves into the pretzel that this other person requires, we really have to start being more discerning in, our needs.
That's
which are
right.
truthfully, we don't have needs. We just need to not have the life sucked out of us by other people and allow that to happen.
Yep. And I think we talked about this in the shitty relationships. I'm going to keep referring people to that episode as well. But those of us that find a sense of value or satisfaction in being needed, there is a natural pattern there or there's an obvious logical conclusion that a lot of us end up in relationships of people that need us, right? But I'm the same way for whatever reason, and it wasn't strategic or conscious on my part. I just fell in love with Jeff, and he's very similar. He's almost like, no, don't help me. You know what I mean?
Right.
He's kind of like, oh my God, this is like vacation, right? And my kids, I want all the time to go above and beyond. And now we all kind of laugh at it because, I mean, my oldest one's in her own apartment at university and that kind of thing. And when I get there, I'm like, okay, are you okay if I like do this and do that, clean and change your sheets? And she's like, yep, I know it makes you happy. And she's right. I don't want to change my own sheets. I want to change hers.
That's true.
You know what I mean? So there's this, I love to be needed by these people in a healthy way that does have a limit, that is defined. And then we just enjoy ourselves. But anyway, just recognizing that in yourself.
That feels like a gift rather than having a tooth pulled.
Yes.
There's a difference.
There's
right?
totally a difference.
And so that's what we're trying to make the discernment around.
Mm-hmm.
Does it mean you don't do things for other people? No, it means that you don't put other people's needs ahead of yours if you're psychologically, emotionally, and, habitually not ready for that. Right?
Yes.
That's really the issue. You might not be ready. And I do feel, I say no so much more, and I feel so much more giving because when I'm giving, I'm not doing it with gritted teeth.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't feel good to give from a depleted state. It feels more depleting. And so there's something that says this is giving, but it's actually not. It doesn't feel... And so some of us are like, well, that feels like a bad thing. What?
And like you said, it doesn't feel as much like a sacrifice because it is a choice.
It's a choice and it feels nice. Like I actually, no matter how I gave in the past, it never overrode my feeling that I wasn't a giving person. And now I do so much less and feel so much more giving than I ever did. Because everything I give is whole. And it's from a whole place. And when you're whole, you actually can't be depleted.
Yeah.
Right? There's just it's not like you're giving away pieces of yourself till there's nothing left. That's not there are no parts to give away anymore.
That's
so
right.
It comes from a different place.
The other strategy I'd offer is that for those that love to please other people, choose a profession and an income, opportunity that you get paid for taking care of people really well, right? Because I do enjoy being needed, and I am very opinionated about the type of help that I want to offer that isn't creating codependency or fostering codependency. It's helping somebody be more autonomous and with more agency and more personal authority. I love that work. And as a people pleaser, that takes the pressure actually off of my personal relationships, that I have this professional outlet for helping people be a more, better version of themselves, more authoritative version of themselves. Then I'm not needing to be needed as much by my family they're just independently wired. And I think we talked about that in the shitty relationships too.
That's where psychology is, and a lot of people you and I speak to
customer
are just
service.
Natural,
yes,
they're
customer
natural helpers, natural healers. Notice the line though when it becomes you doing something nice and feeling good about it, and you'll know. The other hallmark really for me is I used to be very aware of the tit for tat, right? You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. I don't have that tally anymore. It's not relevant to me anymore, because when you're truly giving, right, the giving is the getting, right? So it's almost like a reciprocal process. When you give, you get, just because it's just so clean. I don't know. There's this backflow, right? If you're giving to get, beware.
Yes.
Right. Even if you're giving to like yourself better, beware. Right.
I feel like I feel like I have an example of what you're talking about here, Jill. There was, when I first started doing the podcast, the other podcast that I do, that I started like before they were called podcasts, or in 2011 or something, I was doing weekly 1 hour podcasts weekly. And at some point I was like, I don't want to do it weekly. It just felt like too much. And there was a part of me going, is that mean? What's going to happen? The analytical part of me is like, your numbers are going to go down. People are going to unsubscribe. And there was another part of me going, I'm okay with that. You know what I mean? I don't think I was getting skeptical, but I was getting more realistic about the benefits that was offering individuals. My best stuff I was offering in paid courses. And there was a part of me going, wait, some of these people that only want the free stuff, they never come over and do like a session or get to the meatier stuff that I think would be more helpful, or the scratch my back. I don't think I'm getting anything back from this, and I'm no longer okay with that. If you're okay with it, that's fine. But when you stop being okay with it, you're like, you know what? I don't want to feed this machine of an hour every week of my life. I just don't want to do that anymore. And it did affect my numbers, but I don't care as much as I did before. And that's fine. Choice.
Did I go dark? Right. I feel like I went dark.
It did get dark. All of a sudden, is it darker outside where you are?
Yeah. The sun is starting to, affect me. I feel like I'm sitting in the dark. So sorry, people, I'm sitting in the dark. But I think that's where the discernment comes in, right? In a funny way, it doesn't have to get to the point of saying, wait a minute, what am I getting from this? It's almost like you need a reason to stop doing something. And it's kind of what you hit on before. You could have stopped doing what you're doing without any of that mental calculus, right? And that's kind of an important thing, because if you get to the mental calculus, the brain will take it into some sort of me versus them scenario, which is not really where you were, Jill, right? Like, that's the thing about it. That's not even your nature to sort of think about it like that. So to use the brain to interpret you wanting to make a change, right? It's overusing the brain, as we've discussed before. And this is a really important. So when you say something, the reason why a lot of, martyrs, masochists, people pleasers have trouble saying no is because the guilt causes them to justify to the other while they're doing something. And this is an interesting thing. Girls do this much more than guys. If a girl I used to work with a women's group, executive women. And if there was one thing that we were helping the women do, is stop explaining yourself. Just stop it. When a woman needs to take an hour off of work to go pick up her child at school, I'll make it up afterward. I'll do it. I'll work late on the weekend. I really have to go this time because nobody else. I mean, it's a whole Megillah, right? A guy would probably not even be picking up the kid, be going to the gym and just duck out, never say a word. And so for the women that we were working with, we were like, stop explaining yourself. Do what you're going to do and leave the tail between the legs narrative on the bus. That never sees the light.
Right?
It's so crazy. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of what I'm addressing, is that given the opportunity, that the brain takes that to a not great place. It makes you almost fight with yourself.
Yes.
And so a lot of us don't even want to get into that narrative. They're like, I'll just do it. I don't want to do it, but I'll just do it. The art of saying no is that it's just that I can't do it. That's it.
Or just no. Yeah. I've also found some magic words I want to make sure people have access to, because this works so well. There's something about the psychology, I guess, of I've decided. So for anyone that is trying to be more authoritative over you, your life, what you make time for, it's wonderful to say the words before you back out of something that you used to say yes to or whatever. I've decided that I will no longer be available for, this role or that thing. I don't care how long somebody has been doing it. Because again, for the people pleaser, for the martyr, there are a lot of kind of like, well, I can't say no now, right? And that's such a perfect example of how they don't feel authority over themselves. They're giving more authority to their past decision than their present self, right? So that's where, martyrs tend to have a ridiculous amount of things on their plate. Who knows how much of it they'd actually choose. So I know with my clients, sometimes that's what we do in like maybe an 8-week coaching program is, okay, no, what are you saying yes to this week? What are you saying yes to that week? And I notice there's a lot of like, well, I've been doing that I've been on that board for 10 years. I'm like, yeah, but if they asked you today, would you say yes? Oh, no. Well, do you know what? Guess what? You can say no now. But here's the thing, Jill, they don't know how to say no. They don't know how to get themselves out of it, right? So that is something that can be a great use of someone's time, whether it's, work with someone like you or somebody like me that knows how to say no, be self-loving without being disrespectful of another person. We're not trying to take anything away from someone else. We're just saying that you don't want to be in that slot anymore. We're not preventing them from fulfilling it with somebody else that may want to say yes, right? There's this just dynamic of gymnastics that goes on here, emotional gymnastics in this case, of why someone feels like they don't have a say in what they say yes to. And that doesn't happen right away. It takes some undoing to really kind of peel yourself out of these relationships. And it's hard. It can be really hard. Like I said, especially when you're a martyr in a family dynamic, right? Well, it's like, well, why don't we invite so-and-so, to Thanksgiving? Why aren't we going to so-and-so's event? And I'm like, okay, well, and now that my kids are older, I'm like, you know what? You can go. I'm not going, but you can go, because if someone's going to be there, I love myself too much to put myself back in that situation. Right. So maybe
I feel a lot of flack from my family on that, right? Because I don't show up out of duty. I just don't.
No. Yeah.
I don't believe in loyalty. I don't believe in duty. I believe
we do sound like bitches.
I'm present when I'm making decisions. I'm not making decisions out of past things. And if I say I'm going, I actually want to be there. Mm-hmm. That, like, I'm the one who's being real. Everybody else is like, well, I didn't want to be, they're over at the bar just being like, you too, you said, I guess we're doing a good thing. If I'm there, it's because I want to be there. And I honestly think I bring much better energy than the people who had the thumb screws on and were dragged there than me, who's just like, you know what, that feels good. I'm going. So I also, while you're learning how to say no, there is a concomitant learning how to say yes. It's a very interesting, they go together. And some of us are just as bad at saying yes as we are to saying no. We're bad at saying yes to the things that we want to do because we're so overwhelmed, right, by the things we don't want to do. So it's just an interesting, and my family is just like, Jill, how do you just not show up at stuff? I'm like, I show up when I can, when I want to, when it works. Doesn't mean I don't love people.
No.
But I don't sacrifice myself. I just don't do it.
And this may surprise some folks, but really, when you really look at it, there's a lot of traditional blood family relative types of things that most people, if they felt like they had a choice, they would not go to, right? Whether it's, birthday parties for a certain person or it's for somebody else, but that person isn't going to be there. There are so many creative ways to get around that, right? So we have multiple, birthday celebrations for certain people in the family because some of us don't want to be where that person's going to be, right? And that birthday boy, he can do whatever he wants, right? He's an adult and he can, invite whoever he wants to, but he's kind of agreeable with this too. The first Thanksgiving that when our kids were still younger and we decided to go to Mexico for Thanksgiving, part of it felt selfish because not everybody was going and some were going to be alone for Thanksgiving, right? Well, not alone. There were 3 of them getting together, but we had so much fun that Thanksgiving. It felt like a guilty pleasure. It was one of the best Thanksgivings we've ever had. And it made me just realize how many people dread some of these family gatherings. And they could be, if you take apart the bullshit tradition of a lot of it, if there isn't a lot of fun happening at these family gatherings, then why not just blow them up, right? And have something else. Let's do a barbecue on August 10th every year, the Saturday after Labor Day. Let's get together and do this. Let's never get together again for Thanksgiving. Or just experiment one year and say we're not doing Thanksgiving anymore, because I found that there's this structure of we're supposed to do this, and in a way, Jill, that is a form of martyrdom. We realized that my mother-in-law, she doesn't even like to make the turkey. She was always the one that made the turkey. And then she kind of expressed with envy one time that I hosted and I just had it catered. She was like, wow, she was kind of in a way making a bit of a crack at me. Like, wow, you're making it easy on yourself. I'm like, wait, you don't like to make all the turkey and stuff? She said, no, I hate it. I'm like, oh, let's never make you do that again.
See, that's what I'm talking about. It's just the ways that we martyr ourselves. And, my husband and I started this thing. It's like, let's not do anything. He has a diary. I think I might have mentioned this, but he has a diary and he sees like year to year, we're actually kind of doing very similar things. And he's like, I don't want to do things that I've done before anymore. Like I want to, every year somebody invites us to, the US Open and we go and it's like, it's hot, the food's bad. Like it's not that enjoyable, honestly. And I don't love it. And so this year he's like, you want to bag the Open? I'm like, yeah, I don't want to go. And we felt like, yay, but it never occurred to us before, somebody was inviting us. It was totally a kind thing to do. And we're just like, ugh. It doesn't really float my boat. It's supposed to, but it doesn't. So we have this thing about not being compulsive about the actions, but you do want to think about, it's a funny thing that we all get in our cars on Thanksgiving, drive in traffic. It's a horror getting to where you need to go. It's a horror getting home. We do a lot of things that are just habitual and weird.
And compliance. The compliance of it. I love that you use the compulsivity towards martyrdom, but there's also the compliance side of it. But I'm just wondering if we really gave ourselves a really wide range of authority, if a lot of traditions wouldn't even be done that way. I remember I had a yoga Pilates instructor, and she was talking about how, and I could see that she was quite type A and like, I want everything to be perfect. And I can certainly relate to a lot of that. And she was talking about how they were watching home movies of like Christmas. She said, I hate myself in these movies. And I knew exactly what she was talking about, because there's a part of her going, no, you're, shush, it's his turn to open, just directing everybody to try to make it perfect, sucking the fun out of the entire process, probably for everyone, and probably her not enjoying herself either. Right.
Yeah.
So there's just this whole charade and performative aspect of a lot of these things. And, we have the other episode on micromanaging that relates to this very well too. So I'd refer people to that. But the martyr makes choices all the time that they wish they didn't have to make, would make a different choice. And if you do it long enough, you don't even realize you're doing it. And then I think what we're bringing in now is the societal kind of expectations of, well, it's Thanksgiving, so you have to get together with family. But do you though? I mean, you could have any kind of casual gathering. You could have a brunch the week before. Doesn't have to be on that day. Doesn't have to have any decorations whatsoever. Christmas doesn't have to be about gifts, right? There's a lot of non-traditional breaking the rules that can feel naughty but freeing that God, it really starts to break this open wide. My kids hate, okay, this is such a silly example, but I'll bring it up. My husband and my two daughters hate to be sung happy birthday to. I don't really understand why, but they cringe and they go, thanks, So we don't do candles anymore, and we don't do the singing happy birthday. So I had to tell my parents, I'm like, okay, now the request is, because I can't control you guys. I'm not trying to pretend I can. The request is that we don't sing happy birthday to V. And they're just like, my mom's like, I like to sing happy birthday to her. I'm like, yeah, I know you do, but she's asking us not to. And I'm agreeing not to sing to her. And her request is more important to me than my need or want to sing to her. But you could tell they were uncomfortable with it. But anyway, that got cringy for a moment there. But
I think it's important to say that we're not being radical. We're sort of saying, if this is on your plate and it is stressing you out, just think about it again. I think I go to a lot more family functions now that I've shed the martyr sacrifice, situation, that I feel freer to just move about the cabin, and I do. But if you're still kind of embroiled in this narrative and in this dynamic, you have to get a little distance from it before you can re-engage without being sucked back in. Mm-hmm. Right? So like I said, I go to things, I feel great at them. I don't feel like I have to say no all that much. It just feels generally easy. And it's because there's not a lot of, inner conflict anymore around these things. I'm not doing them to serve a purpose. I'm not doing them to better myself or to like myself better. I'm not doing to ingratiate myself into someone else's, good graces. So when you shed a lot of the reasons why you say yes and no to things, then you can freely say yes and no to things. There's such a naturalness to it. There's such an ease to it. So if we're just picking on Christmas and Thanksgiving, those are probably seeming like extreme examples, but some people have very, very problematic family dynamics. I know a lot of people who I've worked with who are healing from their families of origin, and to go and subject yourself to being that person that everybody keeps in this box, even though you've grown so much, it could be intolerable in the early stages of breaking out of that narrative that you've been ascribed for so long. So honor that, right? That's kind of what we're saying. And just be honest that these things aren't as fun as they're cracked up to be, and change it even within it to make it more fun. Like, we're going through the motions so much of the time, and we're just not updating things to serve us better. So that's what I'll offer about, if people are just wincing over our saying Thanksgiving, go to Mexico, I just want to say, that these are choices that we made because they're not rebellious, they're free, and there's a difference.
Yeah. The martyr pattern, once you allow yourself to get out of that pattern and recognize the choices that you make, everything in your life becomes more authentic, is what I know I have found. Those that are perpetual takers to the point of taking advantage of, those people have disappeared from my life, and for logical reason, right? Somebody that is manipulative requires a martyr to be around so that they can keep passing off different things for them. and controlling them, etc. So when you stop being that person who is in your life, it will change. And that can be liberating. And oh my God, I didn't know life could be this great. I didn't know Thanksgiving could be that wonderful. And again, there's just so many ways to rationalize staying in a martyrdom role, and you're welcome to do that. Anyone is welcome to do that. But I feel what you and I are offering, Jill, is a very perhaps contrarian view to the martyr to consider, perhaps get upset about and cringe over and say, oh my God, that's so selfish, whatever. But I know that I am such a better person in my life. I am more available to the truly healthy relationships that I do have. I'm more loving of myself, certainly not perfect. Never thought I was, not really trying to be. I'm trying to be my best, Jill, and like myself the most and love myself the most in that process. And some individuals help me be a version of me that I like and that I love. And some individuals somehow bring out the worst in me. And I'm aware of that. And my choices in that situation. And being a martyr for me was an empty pit of giving and giving and giving and feeling like it wasn't really changing anything in another person's life, or making anything better. And it was just a Band-Aid on a really gaping wound. And that stopped feeling good to me.
I think that is perfectly said. I can't even add anything to that. I think that's just a really good summation of kind of what we've been talking about. This is not why this is virtuous. I do not know. Why sacrificing yourself, prostrating yourself I just don't know why that is seen as virtuous. And that is really, I just want everybody to just look at that again. Because treating yourself poorly is not the path to loving yourself more. It's just not. And sacrifice is not a virtue. It's painful.
It is painful. And for those that are thinking about another person in your life as they're watching this episode, Jill, so in other words, they have a close loved one or a close friendship that person's the martyr and they're wishing that they'd stop being a martyr. I mean, send them this episode, but also recognize they're operating in a very distorted belief system of self-value and self-worth and growth and possibly some really unfortunate, deceptive belief systems that only they can change, right? You can't rescue someone from being a rescuer either. The other part, and I'll admit this is a bit of a corner case, but if you have somebody that is a classic manipulator in your life and you want to prevent fellow, good, good, kindly, lovable beings from, it's almost like you want to prevent people from helping them. Does that make sense, Jill? Am I articulating that well? Mm-hmm. I'll just offer an example of how I kind of broke that spell in myself from people being exposed to that sister. I kept feeling like, oh my God, there's another person that's trying to help her. And I want to let them know the bigger situation so that they save themselves from the natural catastrophe that's going to happen and the hurt they're going to feel when they see the other side of this situation of who my sister is. And there was a hairstylist that I was going to that knew that sister. And I was mentioning to her, like, oh my God, she's got another angel trying to help her move again. And I'm like, God, I really want to find out this woman's name and call her and say, hey, FYI, the reason the rest of the family isn't helping her with this move is because, just watch out for this, be careful, hold on to your heart. She's going to hurt you. Right. And it was so sweet because this hairstylist, they're healers too. Right. And she's just kind of doing my hair. And she said, Jill, I have angels in this chair all day long. And some of them feel a sense of value in being that angel, even to beings like your sister. So do you really want to take away from them the opportunity to be to be the giver that they enjoy being, right? Or do you want to just, accept that they've got their own choices. They're making their own choices. They can see what they want to see, and they may not get as hurt as you did because you're her sister. And I was like, that was such a oh my God, that if I were to, try even to go around and help make sure everybody knows that my sister can be this super, just hurtful, harmful person, then I'm depriving them in a way of the giving that they want to give. They may never be harmed by it like I was, right? And when she said that I would be taking something away from them, that they enjoyed being a helper. And I was like, oh my God, then line them up. Line up all the angels in the world. Because even if she
kind of what we were saying, right?
Even if she burns through them every week, then there's one a week that gets a high out of being the one that can tell their family and friends, I helped this nice woman move out of her house. And, who knows what my sisters told them about us. It doesn't matter. I don't care anymore. I can't control that. I don't care what she's saying about us. And my family never helps at all. Who knows what she's saying? I can only imagine. I don't care. I can't control that. I've decided, I've created a version of Jill that recognizes I can't control that and doesn't want to control that. That is freedom.
You don't need to, right? Yeah. And I think that's what I was saying before. It's like not every miracle is yours, right? Yeah. There are other angels that are going to step in and do it. And a lot of these angels are coming at it from the vantage point that you and I have been discussing, which is sort of, I'll say, the healed vantage point where it's not depleting them. Right? So it really doesn't matter what somebody does or how egregious they can behave. It's not depleting. And you and I both have a huge wide berth for that. It's much more difficult with your family because that's the deep end of the pool, right? But we do that for other people's family, Jill. We touch those people who nobody else wants to touch. I've worked with drug addicts. I've worked with criminals. Their families have completely, given up on them. And I just see them as people. I don't have the backstory. And so I can be there for them. Right. And so we're doing the angel work to other people's family members who are like, do you know who you're talking to? Right. We're doing it. And
that's so true. I hadn't thought about that.
It's sort of like a village, right? We're all just kind of like, okay, I can't deal with my sister, but you do. And I'll deal with someone else's sister who doesn't, I mean, we've had those clients, we've had those friends. Like I've definitely had friends who people are like, we can't stand that person. Like, I know. And they don't bother me, and they're like, but you know what they did? I'm like, until they do it to me, I am just going to continue to offer what I offer. If something happens, I will make a decision then. But you don't want to, sort of sully the field there because everybody's different with everybody.
That's
right?
a great point.
Honestly, I don't feel like people can take from me. So I have had clients who I'm doing all the work and I lovingly say, like, we're going to break up now. Because I'm doing the work, you're not doing the work, and that's fine, but that's not the way I operate. So I've probably gotten rid of more clients than have gotten rid of me. Because I recognize if there's a limit, if they're not using the therapy, then I'm in some sort of a codependent relationship and I cut it right off. But that's the discernment, right? You see where it goes. You're discerning every day. You don't just say, well, I've been there for them through this, so I guess I got to go help them, with this. Why? No, that doesn't equal B. And so just to stay present and stay discerning and see each choice as a separate choice and don't start compounding these things and making them take on a life of their own. Right. It's really important.
That's so true. Thank you. I didn't even think about it from the other side that sometimes we are that angel for some individuals that do have just, they burn bridges or whatever. And thank goodness, I'm sure for both of us, if there is that portion of the audience space in my world, it's tiny. The majority are, not they're not like the black sheep of family, or sometimes they are, but it's
my
anyway,
world is more
not toxic based. They're not my sister. How about that? How about that?
No, my world is definitely more, whether it's the drug addicts or, my world is definitely more filled with, people that have just burned every bridge in their life.
Mm.
But you
so hard.
you are it more than you would give yourself credit for.
I did have a situation where there was a family member that contacted me about a client that I was working with, and they knew that. Like, I don't know if you know the whole story here, and it was really interesting to kind of read that email and just go, oh, that's interesting. And it didn't change my relationship with that client, but it was interesting. It was just another reminder that, and not that I needed it, but I appreciated it, that there are so many sides to all of us, who and what we are. The
other thing about us, Jill, I think it's important to note, when you and I work with somebody, we are compassionate and caring, but we are challenging, right? Yeah. So whatever narrative somebody is bringing me, I am there to bust the narrative. I don't care what narrative it is, right? I'm there to poke holes in it. I'm there to look again at it. So it's I'm not agreeing, if you will, or forming an alliance in any way with anybody that I'm ever working with. I'm always questioning, so it feels always very vital and very alive, and not like I'm being suckered into their story. Yeah, because you and I did a whole thing about stories, right? About the origin story. The narrative is so irrelevant to us.
It is.
Right? We're looking at their functioning, where they want to function better, where they're starting today, but we don't allow them to create the story of them with us.
No, it isn't. It isn't even about that. And I think that's the benefit of working with a professional, and an objective professional, right? That isn't trying to, this is the part about traditional psychology I've heard you say you have a problem with, is the whole, yep, you're right, it's all your dad's fault. You know what I mean? That I don't see the healing or the transcendence in that at all, right? So we don't want it. What you and I have talked about in other episodes, and I know from each other, is that we're not interested in their stories. We're trying to help them free themselves from the stories, to help them not self-sabotage anymore, to help them see their transcendence, in my case, to help them see that they are more than their experience, more than their history, more than their shitty relationships, more than what other people think of them, right? To help them access more authority within themselves to create and be and operate as a better version of themselves for their benefit and for everyone in their lives' benefit. Everybody wins from that process. So you're right that
we don't let them blame other people
because it doesn't matter, right?
But to me, that's what keeps the narrative alive, right? So they don't get to blame other people for where they are. It is, we're going to hit the road running here and definitely take stock of where you are right now. So I think it's a very powerful way that you and I work. And I'm saying that other people don't work that way, but it cuts through so much of why would I let them create a persona that I then have to pull apart?
I know
what I'm saying. It's a backward, I don't know. It's a backward process to me.
It doesn't go anywhere.
The present. It doesn't. It really doesn't.
So I'll point people to there's a separate episode that we did, the sort of about us episode, the backstory. That's just kind of brief that people can hear more. But I mean, the reason that you and I are doing this entire Psyched podcast is because we have so many years of experience of truly helping people get outside of some of these supposed therapies, supposed, belief systems that were promised, as something that would help them heal or help them grow or help them be a better person, that didn't. And sometimes just kept them in this really demented loop of suffering, of martyrdom, of confusion and delusion. And we just got to the point where we're like, okay, we just got to talk about what we know so that it's offering another narrative, another explanation, another strategy that we know works. Or we have better things. We have other things, not better. We have other things we can be doing with our time than this. Trust us.
Yeah.
Right. So we're doing this because we do enjoy helping people and we love what works. That's another thing we have in common. We love things that work. That's all I'm asking for with any healing, any therapy. Does it work?
Yeah. And is it practical, right? And does it honestly, does it make sense? Does it make sense? It's not like this isn't that complicated. You know? It shouldn't be.
Being a great version of ourselves should not be complicated, right? But oh my God, in this reality, it is for even the most successful people, even successful on paper, successful in real life, right? There's all this trickiness and complexity and weirdness to this world and weirdness to ourselves that if something oversimplifies it, it doesn't take into account that strangeness and that complexity. And that's where things don't work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like
Martyrs, do you feel like we covered it?
I feel like we covered the martyrs, the masochists, the people pleasers. I feel like we got enough food for thought out there for people to really be like, how does this apply to me? How doesn't this apply to me? You know, and let me sweep my own front porch before I start, you know, judging other people on their people pleasing and things like that. So it's a very, you know, bring it back, the ball is in your court situation here. You know, there's a lot of autonomy here, and I think it can make for a lot of ease and a lot of effortlessness that was heretofore quite overwhelming.
There's a lot here. I like the format that you and I are doing this in, that it's very conversational. We're not operating from notes. You know, we're intending to make this very welcoming, very non-threatening, because we know that there's so much of that self-deception that happens in the brain, that the more natural and conversational we can make this, the less threatening it is to the brain to hear something new, to hear something different, to hear something that contradicts its delusional belief, right? It kind of hears it and goes, wait a minute, she just said, you know, it doesn't make sense to please people that are incapable of being happy or that are unpleasable. I think we try. I think we as myself try to please people that they're unpleasable. Made a little note of that, right? There's tiny little seeds all over this stuff to help anyone get out of their own way, have what seems like a small little kind of notation that ends up being so significant.
Yeah, that's usually the way it works. I like it. All right, I think it's a wrap. Feels good. I think we did it.
We did it.
I think next week we're going to talk about anxiety, right? That's going to be the topic, and I hope people tune in for that one, because that's a biggie. Getting a different version or different possibilities for what people think anxiety is. I think is really, what would I say? I think it's groundbreaking, honestly. Let's say that. Let's humbly say that.
Yeah. I mean, people deserve better strategies to face and operate alongside natural and unnatural, exaggerated anxiousness that is part of this reality. And I know from your and my methods and just the way we work and the premise that we have and our sense of strategy and transcendence and, oh, wait a minute, you know, the just kind of like, whoa, that's a big aha moment. I can't wait to see what comes through, knowing that anxiety has become such an everyday thing that people feel incapacitated by. And that's concerning because it's not going away.
No, and it's getting younger and younger and younger. I mean, it's just everywhere. So I think it's a really important topic. All right.
Great.
Until next
Thanks so
time.
much, Jill. And I'll just mention to people, like I tend to try to remind you of, thank you so much for your help. If you enjoyed this podcast, thank you for liking it, rating it, reviewing it, sharing it with two friends. It's a very noisy space in the podcast world. And if you felt like this made a difference, please trust yourself enough that the gift that you received may be extremely beneficial to another person in helping them get out of their own way and being an absolutely amazing version of themselves. Thank you.
And also, if you want to reach us and talk to us, we love the back and forth. And you can find us at psyched.wtf. Is that where we are, Jill?
This is where we are.
Remembering that.
Every time we say it, I giggle because I just love that. I kind of like it that psych.com was taken. And I like it that when you and I were on the phone that day, I'm like, well, Psych WTF's available. We were like, yes, let's do it. It's just.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm just having such a mental. I love it, but each time I say it, I'm like, is that for real? All right, so that's where we are.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Jill. I love you.
I love you too.